welcome to my channel. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to upload any videos yesterday, and it seems that I need to verify and update my account with Google. And this is now being done to adhere to the very important age verification checks that will be passed any moment now. So they have this new company, it's called Saturn Connection, powered by Palantir, that are handling the updating of accounts and biometrics in a secure and responsible manner. So let's go ahead and use this service here. Let's go ahead and update our account so that I can keep posting videos on YouTube. We've detected that several fields in your profile require refreshing. Please walk through each section to ensure your account remains current and compliant. Alright, that makes sense. Alright. Update personal details. Alright, all of that looks good. I guess we'll continue. Makes complete sense, yeah. Flagging discrepancies for review. Refresh my documents. How did I get my... Oh, let's see here, is it correct? Yep, I guess it's correct. Alright, they want me to upload a document too. Let's go ahead and do that. Alright, perfect. Reading invalidated my ID. Right. Refresh biometric reference. You need a biometric reference? Right. Okay. Deriving facial feature map. Review data permissions. Process personal data to verify and maintain your age assurance status? How did verifying my age become so complicated? Alright, well I guess this looks right, so let's go ahead and accept that. Alright, account updated successfully. Personal data is now one of the world's most traded commodities, and as of 2024, personal data traded at a net of $300 billion. That is $1 billion every working day, moving hands, buying your data. This is projected to exceed $500 billion by 2033 by the most conservative estimates we have, but in reality, we're looking at closer to $1 trillion. But how are they going to increase the value of this market? I mean, nearly everything you do online is already part of this dataset. They will do it not just by increasing the amount of data collected, but by the quality of that data collected. You need something that doesn't expire, can't be rotated, and is unique to you. This data class is called biometrics. This includes fingerprints, facial maps, iris scans, and even more subtle things that you might not realize, such as keyboard typing patterns and voice patterns. All they need is a legal shield in order to achieve this, and that is where the age assurance enters. In this video, you'll see how the data market was built, how age verification is the next phase, how detailed datasets have been used to steer emotions, reshape elections, and that government dodge warrants, and at the end, what you can do to opt out. Let's define the scope. Age assurance is not a single protocol or method. It's more like an umbrella of underlying terms. The main providers of these technologies are Yoti, Persona, and HID. They collect a very thorough set of data. They don't exactly say how much, but they do give us a minimal bound. We know for a fact that they collect over 23 data points. Here's a list of them. I'll go through pretty fast here on the screen. Identity and document data. Full legal name, home address, date of birth, government issued ID, document expiry date, issuing country, photograph from document. Biometric data. Live facial photo, biometric facial model, liveness detection signals, voice sample, device and network data, IP address, GPS/location data, device fingerprint, device language and time settings, app store and operating system metadata. Account and behavioral data, email address, phone number, account age history, behavioral patterns and engagement history, social media linkage. Financial and third-party data, credit card or debit card, credit bureau data, electoral roll data. While researching this topic, I found a 2025 investigation of Persona, which is the biggest vendor by far and is used in over 200 countries. Once you get verified, they will actually cross-reference your data in lookup tables. Through this, they're able to collect information about your media feeds, political alignment, electoral preferences, sexual orientation, and medical history, along with a total of 269 other checks. Those included. If you want to learn more about this, I actually put the source for this article right here. See who really sees your data when you verify your age online by Intercede. Who buys the data? Surprisingly, this entire $300 billion industry is largely composed of only 5 companies: Axiom, Experian, Equifax, LexisNexis, and CoreLogic. The one legitimate use case is to run targeted ads. Know how many times a person sees said ad, and then decide how to deliver those ads, either via phone, email, or social media, sometimes even a letter in your mail. But this does not even remotely account for all of the money. Look a little deeper and you'll find banks, insurance companies, state actors, and direct criminal buyers. Banks, lenders, and credit score companies. There is something called KYC enhancement. On paper, it's about checking that you are who you say you are, but in practice, it's about building a probabilistic model of your entire financial life. They rank how exploitable you are. Then they buy the data to estimate your tolerance for risk, your likelihood of missing payments, even how desperate you might be for cash fast. Then they tune the terms, interest, fees, and penalties to keep you right at the edge of default, but not quite over it. Because like this, you generate the most amount of profit for them for the longest amount of time. The result is the exact system we have today: a nation drowning in debt. Insurance companies. For insurers, everything you do is a potential signal. The medicine you buy, the shops you visit, how fast you drive, and what time you're on the road. Even data like which gyms you go to and the fast food chains you frequently visit. Each transaction becomes another feature in an ever-increasing risk model. State actors. This, in my opinion, is the most serious category, and it's about to get dramatically worse as digital ID and age assurance makes its way into your daily life. The warrant system is one of the oldest protections a citizen has had against their own government. Before a state can dig into your private life, it's supposed to convince an independent judge that it has grounds and a reason to do so. It's slow and leaves a paper trail. The data broker market has made that paper trail both disappear and become dramatically shorter. In June 2023, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released a partially declassified internal report, officially released under the pressure from Senator Ron Wyden, confirming what civil liberty groups had long suspected. US intelligence agencies and spy services were systemically purchasing vast quantities of commercially available data on their own citizens. Location histories, smartphone apps, web browsing records, data from connected vehicles. The report's own language is worth quoting. This data can disclose the detailed movements and associations of an individual and groups, revealing political, religious, travel, and speech activities. End quote. The report also admitted the intelligence community had collected so much purchase data that ODNI could not comprehensively review all of the purchases. The agencies involved were not on a small list either. Confirmed buyers include the FBI, NSA, DEA, Secret Service, Customs and Border Protection, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the Department of Defense, the Department Intelligence Agency, the Navy, Coast Guard, and perhaps more strikingly, the Internal Revenue Service, which purchased commercial location data in an attempt to identify and track suspect criminals. In March 2026, FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed to the Senate Intelligence Committee that the FBI is still buying data today, describing it as consistent with the Constitution. The legal logic they use is extremely cynical. In 2018, the Supreme Court ruled in Carpenter versus United States that the government needs a warrant to obtain persistent location data from mobile carriers. However, government lawyers interpreted this as meaning the rule only applies when government compels disclosure, not when it's simply writing checks to a data broker, because the data broker would sell to anyone, the intelligence community included, so the intelligence community then classified their purchases as accessing publicly available information, which requires no warrant, no probable cause, and no suspicion that anyone in the dataset had been doing anything wrong. ACLU FOIA lawsuits confirmed that the DHS agencies purchased bulk location data from two brokers, Ventel and Babel Street, who themselves harvested it from ordinary apps you might recognize, weather apps, navigation tools, and fitness trackers. This data was then used by ICE for immigration enforcement, and by the CBP for border operations. They essentially were tracking people's physical movement, sometimes even in real time, across the United States without any judge signing off. There are real examples of them using this data infrastructure to manipulate people's behavior patterns too. Cambridge Analytica in 2014 to 2016 reports the case of a political data firm purchasing and improperly obtaining data for over 50 million Facebook profiles. It was then fed into an AI personality profiling system called Ocean. The profiles mapped individuals' psychological vulnerabilities, including emotional triggers, political persuadability, fear responses, and much more. Tailored messages were then targeted to those vulnerabilities during the 2016 presidential election and the Brexit referendum. It worked. This was the most precise data targeting system the world had ever seen, and no one knows about it. By 2026, they haven't stopped doing it. As a matter of fact, they've only accelerated it. And today it shows psychographic profiles are 3.2 times more granular than the Cambridge Analytica's, with up to 1,847 attributes per voter. For 1 week in January in 2012, without any information on them, Facebook altered news feeds for 689,003 randomly selected users, reducing the amount of positive and negative content they saw to test whether emotional states were contagious through social media. They found users shown more negative content wrote more negative posts. Users who saw more positive content wrote more positive posts. The study was published in a scientific journal in 2014 and caused a massive public outcry. I hope you can see is that there is a blatant disregard for the legal due process of obtaining information on citizens. The warrant system was built to protect citizens and has been not just routed around carefully but broken by the system. The market made it far easier, cheaper, and less traceable to simply buy intelligence than to obtain it lawfully. And digital ID systems, once embedded, will make this tenfold more effective. Direct criminal buyers. On the criminal side, the line in Ohio in 2018, there was a case of a man who was suffering from mental illness. He went to seek help, but on his way over to the authorities, he was apprehended by some people that claimed to be there to help him. They manipulated him into showing where he lived. They drove over to his house, kept him captive in his house, while probing him for personal data. Using that data, they were able to apply for loans in his name, wired the money over to their own bank accounts, and then fled the country. In total, they took up over $1 million of debt, and they did it with nothing but information. This might sound like an isolated case, but the thing is, if they were able to pull this off with just information, they could do it to you by just having that same information. Why has this not happened sooner? The true answer is, it's always happened, but it's been fragmented and uncoordinated. For years, this personal data trade has been operating legally and effectively sanctioned by the very privacy rules meant to protect you. So long as the terms of service were met, meaning you just click the box, your rights effectively disappear. A common misconception is to think that GDPR functions as a protective shield against this practice. This is untrue. The EU cares little about your right to privacy. Instead, they want to encourage companies to collect as much data as possible to keep the data trade open. Then, they tax those companies through fines. Know this, the EU collects more from fines on US tech firms than they do in taxes from their own firms. If the EU actually wanted to protect your privacy, the penalty for violating these rules would be jail time. But they are not, so the companies pay a small fine and keep doing exactly what they're doing. At the same time, these platforms are hollowing out the very foundation they're built on. The same data scrapers and crawlers used to collect the data are now hitting companies where it hurts. Companies are facing a real threat from AI bots that sneak past or outright solve CAPTCHAs. Those bots then get mistaken for real users, leading them to be served ads and interacting with those ads, which all gets logged as data. This is like feeding the exhaust into the air intake of an engine. If that continues, the engine will stall, and companies like Meta could see the core of their business model start to fail. So now you have a zugzwang, a position with no good move. Clamped on too hard and you strangle your own metrics and ad revenue. Do nothing, and the ads will keep getting served to bot accounts and advertisers leave. You need a new way of guaranteeing authenticity of a user. The solution? Make them verify it for you, using IDs and biometrics. Now, a sane government would never accept this, had it not been for the perfect storm. The European and American institutions are losing power fast. Institutional distrust is at an all-time high. They know their time is limited, and they will do whatever they can to keep on clinging to it. This really accelerated since 2022, because if you think about it, the institutions took up a big debt in public trust during the big cough, and then they kept spending public trust credits on the island, two-tier justice system, public safety issues, public health crisis, public spending crisis, regulatory capture crisis, state-run media crisis. You get the picture. In history, a successful revolution requires a lot of motivated people that want to replace the old system, and that are coordinated enough to pull it off. For a long time, this first requirement wasn't met, as people largely had it good enough not to want to risk starting a revolution. But younger generations really don't have much to live for. They can't buy a house, start a family, eat healthy food, drink clean water. These are precisely the people who have very little to lose and might be willing to risk it all. If governments can constantly monitor social discontent in real time, they can effectively ensure that it won't reach critical mass and never get in a position to enact lasting change. They want to know who is angry, who they talk to, what they read, where they go. If they can do that, they can ensure no cluster ever grows into a movement. If you target these people with direct pressure like financial obliteration, unemployment, poverty, and so on, you can resume your power structure. Ruling with fear is better than not ruling at all. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on, said by Larry Ellison, the owner of Oracle and TikTok. Who benefits? Largely the same people who benefited from every other crisis. Central banks and insurance companies can give less favorable terms and get away with it. Governments can retain power even if the public despises them. Large organizations can get capital and power within the system by funding it with data and cooperating by maintaining the infrastructure. Basically, it's a huge us versus them. If you're part of them, they will give you nearly godlike powers. See and hear everything. If you're on the outside, you will be under the risk of persecution, constantly. Just a violent thought could be enough to raise the alarm on you. Now let's talk about opting out. First, a small disclaimer. This is not a guide to breaking laws or bypassing legal requirements. It's about exercising what little privacy autonomy you still have left. The burden of justification should be on those demanding your data, not on you for wanting to protect it. With that aside, let's go. The highest ROI decision you can make right now is to ditch Windows. This is free and relatively easy to do. If you use a computer a lot like I do, Windows is the biggest liability factor you have. Deeply integrated cloud services, default data collection, an ecosystem built around tracking and profiling your every move. Moving to Linux or any privacy-respecting operating system immediately cuts all your exposure in half. Phones. Your phone is a sensor platform you carry everywhere, so your phone here matters even more. The large providers, Apple, Google, and Androids, are inseparable from the very machine surveillance ecosystem. Also know that the reason they put such effort on a civilizational scale towards building new 5G and soon 6G infrastructure is because this directly impacts the amount of data they can collect on you. A cell phone is basically ingrained into your daily life, so cutting this exposure is extremely inconvenient, but it's still possible to get around it. Projects like Purus and Librem phones run on a Linux-based OS with hardware kill switches and GPS switches. They cost a fair bit, but they are outside the system. In my opinion, it's worth it for what you're getting. This type of phone is really only for calling, messaging, and very basic app usage, but it's ever expanding, and my projection is that it will become a major player as this worsens. Huawei is also a great choice that can't be overlooked either. They are part of the machine, just a different one, and China isn't really as complicit as these large Western organizations. But this is a risk assessment you'll have to do on your own. AI usage. This one is creepy. Certain AI companies, including Anthropic, will actually share your details and build a report on you and send it to law enforcement if they believe it's necessary. Note that these flags are based on pattern matching, not intent. If you're role-playing, writing a novel, or doing something that hits enough of these keywords, you could get yourself an AI-written police report with all of your previous chats taken out of context, bundled up to be used against you. I highly recommend hygiene here more than anything. Use AI for boring, unremarkable technical tasks. If you want an AI you can use to roleplay, write novels with, the best option is AI companies that allow you to sign up via crypto or just use it anonymously for free. Venice AI is known. I haven't used it myself though. I host my own AI locally and it does most of my work. Disappearing today is unfortunately impossible, but you can do a fair bit to prevent a 4K live stream reporting on everything you do, move, talk to, and whatnot. I thank you a lot for watching, and in the next video, we will be taking a look at how much data they're actually collecting on you in net value.